Thank you for watching us on YouTube. But did you know that if you're on the go, you can get the full show as a podcast now? You can get our morning breakdown of the most important topics facing our country, news not being covered by the mainstream media, interviews with change-making progressives, and info on what you can actually do about all this. Search for The Damage Report on your favorite podcast app and subscribe so you know when new episodes are ready to go. We're lucky to be joined right now by Randi Weingarten, president of the American Federation of Teachers, to talk about this. Welcome to the show.
It's great to be with you. Thank you for having us.
Oh, it's great to have you here. So, in that intro, I was alluding to that new report showing 500 and I believe it was $80 billion. Yeah. How did you react to this finding?
I was stunned that it was that much. I expected it to be high because this is 580 billion from 2005 to 2017. So essentially, we have two laws for your viewers / listeners, and thank you for covering this. There's two laws that say that were passed one in the 60s and one in the 70s that basically say every single young person who has special needs is entitled to a specific education program. And it was always promised to be funded by the federal government to the tune of 40%. It was never funded more than about 10%. And the second thing is Title I, which Johnson passed, and that was every single poor kid in the United States of America should have a level playing field. And when you add up the deprivation, that it was $580 billion. And what that means is that kids don't get guidance counselors, they don't get AP courses. It's not simply all the stories we're not seeing like the cover of Time magazine, which says, I have a master's degree, I've taught for 16 years, and I have to sell plasma to actually earn a living because my teacher salary doesn't earn me enough. This is a matter of kids who go to more wealthy schools in high tax or more wealthy areas, because mostly schools are funded by property taxes. They get this stuff, and everybody else doesn't. And that is how we are hurting, undermining our promise to the next generation that we are going to help them on the ladder of success.
So I want to talk a little bit about, obviously this has been boiling over for a long time. The study talks about basically like a 15-year period, but right. The funding has never been there, going back literally decades. And so this year we've actually seen a lot of teachers apparently responding to the fact that they don't have resources for these programs. Their wages are so low in a number of states. And so there have been state level walkouts in a number of different states. How would you rate the success of those walkouts in achieving the teachers' goals?
Well, they are step one in terms of achieving goals. At the end of the day, you have to change policy and you have to change some of these formulas. There are 10 active lawsuits that are challenging these funding formulas, state after state after state. But what has happened, the reason that people are so focused on the last 10 years is because the recession and its aftermath has been used by the right wing as a way of cutting even more. That's why you saw the strikes in Oklahoma, in West Virginia, in Kentucky, in Arizona, because these are places where that other than that human shield, that walkout action, which was supported by the public, you basically had us and teachers for the last 10 years knocking on the doors of legislators and saying, you have to help us. Yes, we're always going to take money out of our pockets to help kids, but we can't fund guidance counselors for schools. We can't fund nurses out of our salaries for schools. We can't fund AP courses. We can't fund lower class sizes. And we actually can't live on our salaries anymore. So many teachers work 2 and 3 jobs. And so you saw that human shield that created the knowledge and the outrage. But unless we change who is in office, then the policies don't change.
Randi, it's Shivala. You just talked about those 10 active lawsuits. Can you maybe kind of talk through some of the more significant ones and what they kind of illustrate about where the rubber's meeting the road on this? Even just the framing of how you're describing this, it's uniquely American. Like there's austerity measures that politicians are talking about. Therefore, we take money away from funding our schools and children who are the neediest. And also that the pushback is, well, we need to cut funding somewhere. Well, we're teachers and we can't work 3 jobs and fund all these extra things, and we shouldn't have to. Is the other like missing beat? Can you kind of talk through those lawsuits and like kind of what they're gonna where the rubber is gonna meet the road on those?
Right, and you know, so look, I'm a social studies teacher. I start with facts. So take Detroit. There's a suit right now to sue for the right for literacy. That there needs to be enough resources from the state of Michigan to ensure that every single child has the opportunity to be literate. Because you need to read to learn. You need to learn to read by 3rd grade, and then you read to learn. So that's one of the lawsuits that's there. And of course, the middle courts in the state of Michigan denied that. We often have to go to the highest courts. There are lawsuits about the conditions of schools. Take what's happened in Baltimore, where there was not enough heat in the winter, and there's no air conditioning in the summer, so schools were closed. There's lawsuits about funding formulas, like in New York, where we see that the formulas disproportionately are unequal, meaning the kids that need the most get the least, just like what we see now in the Title I funding. So, and virtually every state has had a case like that. In New Jersey, it was called Abbott. In New York, it was called the Campaign for Fiscal Equity. In Detroit, it's called something else. It's normally called by a plaintiff who has actually brought this suit. But take what Betsy DeVos did 2 years ago. She cut every single summer school program, every single after-school program. So you tell me, when there could be $1 trillion to $2 trillion tax cut for the wealthy, and at the same time, a person like Betsy DeVos is cutting $9 billion, that is a matter of priorities. That is, to use her word, a matter of choices. And their choice is to disrupt, undermining, defund, decimate public education so that parents are forced to find private alternatives. So it is a venal choice, this austerity combined with privatization. And thank God people are finally getting it and saying, wait a second, this is not right. But it requires people to vote for people in office that are going to make public education and our kids a priority.
And thankfully, in less than 2 months now, they might have that choice.
Yeah.
Randi Weingarten of the American Federation of Teachers, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for watching this clip from The Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notified of our new videos. And catch The Damage Report every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.